Okay, hi everyone in the room and those who are watching us online. My name is Dmitry, and today I would like to discuss with you why QA engineers should care about business analysis and project management. My talk will consist of three parts. First of all, I will highlight some issues which are quite common, especially on large projects with highly formalized approach, where roles are isolated. The second part will be about why you basically need to be involved into PM and BA. And the third part, I will suggest some steps you can take to get involved. If you have any questions, I would be glad to answer them at the end of my talk. So let's start. I would like to start with kind of general description of business analysis process. You all know this picture. Main inputs from business analyst are some documentation and requirements, normally in the form of user stories. Some non-functional requirements may also be provided. Output from development process includes working software and some test results, test reports, etc. Now I would like to ask you, who can tell me what can possibly go wrong with such a great process? Any ideas? Everything always goes well on your projects? Yeah, that's a good point. Requirements change. I will repeat for those online. Anything else? That's true. Again, I'll repeat, not very good definition of requirements. Okay, let's proceed then. In my short list, on the first position, the main issue, you may simply have no business analyst. In this case, working with product owner directly brings some benefits, but also going to be challenging, and you definitely will need to be involved into business analysis process in this case. Then next issue, documentation may be a complete mess. I would rather say incomplete mess, because lack of completeness, consistency, clarity are quite common problems. They were already mentioned. Also, you may find out that you're missing sample data, you're missing a way to test the requirements, you can't verify something. This obviously results in some overtimes, unnecessary work, etc., etc. Outputs from development process may also have some issues. You may face the case when you come to business analyst with working software and she asks, have you tested that tricky case, how it works? Obviously, in most cases, that is not tested because nobody can guess all things that were not explicitly mentioned. But even worse thing, if a business analyst or product owner or some stakeholders find out that something is not working as they expected, that's even worse than simple late inputs or missed estimates that will cause rework. So this process is not that easy and not always goes very well on large projects. Now let's switch to project management. The first input from project manager is obviously process itself. It defines who does what and when, how people interact with each other and with client. Project management also brings you some information about resources you have. How many people, test environment, software, etc., etc. Your outputs to project management are status of your work and some estimates you provide in advance. Now again, I would like to ask you what issues you can face during interactions with project manager. Okay, so tasks are underestimated. Anything else?
A lot of additional features involved, like additional
Okay. Additional features during development that were not mentioned in advance.
Sometimes you cannot estimate the efforts because you cannot estimate complexity of the story or the task of new features. And one story can just be extended on a few more stories or features.
Okay, great input. I will repeat again. Complexity was giving the right estimate and stretching the stories across many different other stories. Okay, again, I will come with my own short list. Probably the highest priority issue is that there is never ever enough time for testing. Absolutely, I never met a project when there was enough time to do all test activities. Then there are numerous issues with process. There are really many of them. It may include late implementation when testing activities are delayed, and again it goes over time, stay late at night, etc., etc. You may get bad inputs from other participants. Some process flows simply ignored, statuses not changed. Missing estimates, as was mentioned, is also an issue. So it will take more to be developed. You will have less time to test something. Okay, so why we need to go deeper and get involved into those complicated processes? I would say there are two reasons. First of them, you can make your own work more efficient and more comfortable for you. The second one, you can improve the whole project you work on. So, what is the main goal of testing? You all know the answer. You faced that question of interviews probably dozens of times. Main goal of testing has a lot of definitions, and that's, by the way, one of issues of quality assurance in general from my perspective, because you never know which specific definition the other person means. The definition I would like to use today is quite informal, and I would say the main goal of testing is to provide information about quality. This definition itself brings a lot of additional questions. Whom you need to provide this information to which extent? Also, there is a quality term there, and quality itself can be defined in multiple ways. Again, just for this talk, one of definitions I picked, we can say that quality is a measure of how something compares to someone's expectation or standard. But again, it brings a lot of additional questions. Who are that person that have expectations, how they can compare, etc., etc. So, if you get answers to that questions, if you understand how to fulfill the goal of testing, your own work will definitely become easier and more efficient. Now let's go through a couple of other terms. Quality control. Quality control, again, I'm sure you met this term. Let's define it as a set of activities that need to be taken to ensure quality of a product. This is different from testing because you're not simply providing information. You need to think in advance. You need to somehow predict and to influence development to ensure product is built in the right way, and it has a good quality. That requires more information from you. The next term, quality assurance. A set of activities ensuring that quality of process, which is used to define, to develop the product, quality of process is good enough. So to be able to control the quality of something, you need to understand it. I'm sure nobody understands this slide. It was intended to be like that. To be able to deal with process, to again perform your work well, to get answers on all that questions of quality control and quality assurance, you need to understand how it works. While improving the process, you may find out that you are not necessarily making QA work easier, but you're improving someone else's work. Indirectly, that will make your product better, will reduce number of issues, but it's not only about testing, it's about doing the whole project a better place to be. Quality assurance engineers are basically in a wonderful position to deal with these cases, because you can simply ask questions. You're not really responsible for the process, so you're just bystanders who are asking the right questions and help people to adjust the process and the product. Before we start with specific steps, a short disclaimer. You can take those steps only in case you are not overloaded 150% on your project. So 100% is probably good enough. You can sacrifice temporarily some activities. You can provide improvements. You can get benefits from that improvements, and finally improve the whole picture. But if you are really 150% occupied, there are a few things you can do really. You first need to deal with your own process to get free time to improve. Okay. Let's now switch to specific steps. Speaking of business analysis, the most easier and the first and the middle thing you can do, you can test documentation and requirements. Business analyst, unfortunately, will never do it. Simple reason for that, you cannot apply creative thinking and critical thinking at the same time. So what you have just carefully created cannot be effectively broken by you. If you don't have business analyst, product owner from business side will definitely not test his requirements. So ask your business analyst, ask product owner, offer you help. You can test requirements and documentation. At this certain moment, I can think about maybe 20 or 30 attributes of good documentation, of good requirements. But let's, for now, stop on these 6. They are pretty obvious, most of them. So documentation need to be complete, consistent, non-ambiguous. So the same sentence should be understood by 2 different people in a single way. Documentation should be verifiable. You need to know how to test it. Requirements should be feasible. So you should check that you are not asked to invent time machine or something like that to make your software work. And finally, documentation and requirements need to be correct. That's a tricky point really, but you need to check that requirements are not based on the wrong assumptions, that they picture the real world in correct way and describe which features are required over that. When speaking of verifiability, don't forget about sample data. Testing documentation is the right moment to ask about some data to be provided by client or by business analyst. That will simplify your work later. Also, it's not in this list, but non-functional requirements are often underestimated. Finally, it's going to be you who pick the browser, screen resolution, operating system, etc. And let's say one extra browser in non-functional requirements may sometimes double QA efforts. So don't forget to think about it. Again, ask your questions, apply your critical thinking. Then know who your stakeholders are. Again, we already mentioned all the definitions. You need to know who are those people, how they use information you provide to them. Ask your business analyst, ask your managers to add you to email threads, to some meetings. You will probably just listen for them, but it brings a lot of useful input. You may find out what are plans for future development, what features are going to be added later. That allows you to plan in advance sometimes. You will meet some change requests earlier through life cycle, and again, we'll be able to be prepared for them. Try to take part in acceptance process. On different methodologies, different people write acceptance criteria. Sometimes it's BAs, businesses, third-party companies, QA engineers. But even if you're not writing acceptance criteria, try to get involved, visit acceptance session. Again, you will get quick, immediate, and raw feedback from your end users. That is very valuable and useful. Also try to attend demos, maybe even run them. This brings you understanding of business flows, how things are interconnected inside the system, etc., etc. What can be complicated with getting involved into business analysis? There are many things. First of all, business analysis has a lot of information circulated around. So you can easily get overloaded, plan your time, manage your schedule, probably simply ignore some pieces of information if they are not relevant at this moment. Then, you need to talk the right language. Business people are not aware of technical details and will never be. You need to speak business language, you need to understand specific terminology. Business sometimes tends even to group different things in the system in a different way. They are not thinking in terms of screens or items, entities, etc., etc. They think of their own business flows, and they may be quite different. Finally, be careful about politics. You may face cases when different stakeholders have different priorities. Some requirements may be affected by architectural decisions, some budget constraints, etc., etc. So get information about that and be careful not to break process, not to spoil something. Let's now switch to project management part. For project management, apply your critical thinking, analyze your process, find root causes, try to make your process better. There are many ways how to do it. The right place to start with are retrospective meetings. That's a wonderful agile technique. Even if your project is not really agile and quite formalized, try to invent or use, if they exist, retrospective meetings. Regular team members can provide their, can express their needs, can provide their inputs. It's also great self-balancing technique because those people who are not quite interested in the project, they most likely will be quite silent on that meetings. But people who really care, they provide a lot of input, and that allows you to improve the whole project. Test the process as you test software. Nowadays, most of companies stick somewhere in the middle between highly formalized waterfall style processes and agile processes. That brings in issues with some activities being already removed while there is still a need for some information. So analyze this flow, find out weak spots, find out which information is missed, not delivered in time, etc., etc. Ask questions, propose your solutions on retrospective meetings. Build in QA process in advance. So think of configuration management, different builds, flows of information, statuses of items, etc., etc. If you build all the things in advance, you don't need to fight with existing stabilized processes to improve something. It will just work smooth right away. Know according to which rules you are playing the game. So there are some constraints that are non-negotiable, and you can do something with them. From client perspective, so-called iron triangle, normally represented like that. So client operates with cost, time, and scope. From development perspective, the situation is much more complicated. We're also adding resources, risks, and quality here. Quality is normally considered to be not an option. So client, when it comes to the developer company, never assumes that quality can be worse than excellent. But we know how it happens, especially taking that all constraints into account at the same time. You must understand that the more items we fix here, the more, well, the rest of items are kind of automatically defined. So if you imagine absolutely terrible project with everything on top fixed, you automatically will get quality reduced. That's a simply law of physics. You can't do anything without that. So think of which constraints here are really fixed on project level, on product level. Think of what you can probably negotiate. If you can't, just understand rules of your games, understand why certain things are limited in specific way, which constraints they are fighting with. Try to get involved into estimation processes. This includes not only sprint estimations when you attend meetings where developers estimate stories. This also includes project milestones, project deadlines. You probably are not going to be the person who gives an estimate, but again, ask questions, highlight dependencies, highlight hidden complexities. People who provide estimates will listen to you, and probably their estimates will be adjusted. Change requests, I have already mentioned them as part of business analysis, but you can also test change requests from a project and process perspective. From process perspective, you need to check that change request is correctly described, that everyone who needs to be informed is informed, that change request is included into process flow, that everything is stored in the right way, documented, etc., etc., etc. Finally, provide quality assurance information early through life cycle. Manage people expectations. The worst case you can do is to come to the very last day of release and say that there are 20 blockers. If at early stage you don't have precise information, but you give some of information, still it may be available for your project manager, it may be available for client, it may allow them to make some decisions that improve project health. Getting involved into project management may also bring some issues and have some complexities. Again, as with business analysis, use the right language. Project managers are often also not very keen to deep dive into technical details. They operate with all that KPI, metrics, etc. stuff. Learn that language, it's useful, and it's easier to communicate with people on their own language. You may also face kind of arrogant behavior, unfortunately. Normally it's expressed like you're just QA engineer, don't interfere with project management, we know what to do, you are not qualified enough to get in touch with that. I personally completely not agree with that. Probably the easiest workaround is using retrospective meetings where anyone can express everything. Finally, understand the consequences. Accept those restrictions we had on the slide. There are many different things you need to consider. People's mood, budgets, politics, some internal games, external games, etc., etc. So keep an eye on that, ask questions, be careful with proposing, especially if you're proposing huge changes. That concludes a list of steps. One important thing I would like to share with you is that I would not recommend to try to apply most of the steps at the same time. So again, apply your critical thinking, find the weak spots, find what ruins your project or your product worse, and try to fix that at first step. I have prepared a short list of to-do items you can read and start doing quite soon. They are basically just steps to cover all I already mentioned. And thank you for listening. Now I would be glad to answer your questions. Okay, no questions.
I'm sorry, I was a bit late, so I actually did not know what you say in the very beginning. So you are telling this presentation from the perspective of QA or BA?
From QA.
QA, okay. So you are right now have the project where you are involved with the BA?
That's true.
Okay, I'm just curious because on the last my 2 years of experience as the QA, I have just little experience with BA. Actually, I was BA, but then turns out that actually I was not BA, I was just QA, was just named for the BA. I was just doing functional testing. So I was really curious how in your company this works. Is this like just waterfall where you have BA?
No, absolutely not.
So it's more agile and you have BA?
Well, it's kind of agile, yes.
Okay, and there's any specific methodology or?
Well, formally it's as usual called Scrum,
Okay.
but well, many different projects, client needs add some restrictions. Some cases are quite formalized, but I'm not sure I'm getting the question. So
No, I did not have a great question. What I mean is, does BA in the project where you are right now, right? It is just BA or it has another role like Scrum Master or?
you're asking about my role on a
Yeah.
project. I'm just BA now.
Ah, so you are BA,
Yes.
right? Just BA.
But well, through my experience, I personally don't like when speaker talks about his experience. It's quite a boring list of.
Okay.
But as you asked, that was not planned in ahead. So among 10 years in IT, only about first 3 years I worked as a pure QA. Everything else was a mix of QA and Scrum Master, QA and Project Manager, QA and BA, and well, some mixes of that roles.
Okay.
So
yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Dmitry, could you please advise maybe some books or some sources for those QAs who are just starting, who are just doing their first steps in business analysis? Maybe some tips and tricks to do it faster, better, and so on.
well, that's quite complicated because okay, let's start with a simple approach. The easiest way to get involved is basically to start the activities on your project. So on your project, you might understand the needs, you might understand the weak spots. You may just cover some needs, extending your QA work to some requirements management or requirements discussions with client, and that would be a good start for the beginning. Speaking of books, there are many of them. The issue with books is that there are many different kinds of business analysts. So some books are focused on inception phases, start of the project when you go to client and negotiate how basically the project is going to happen. Some other books are focused on correct expressing requirements as documentation, test cases writing, etc., etc. Yet another kind of books focus on processes, on requirements management, how you process change requests, etc., etc. So at this right moment, I'm not ready to recommend some specific books. So I would say just Google it. There are communities where people discuss and provide a lot of feedback, better than I can give at this moment.
Thank you for a very nice presentation. I totally agree with you. But I have a question. You said the main role of the QA or testers is to provide information about the quality, some sort of the report or a list of the bugs. But the result of these actions is not tangible. So any advice how to mitigate the risk of being judged as a person who is not fulfilling its role?
Well, as I mentioned, first of all, you need to have some spare time to apply that steps. Speaking of providing information, well, I can just almost repeat what was earlier in my presentation. Have no other thoughts at this moment about that. To provide information, you need to know who you are providing it to and how they use it. Only in this case, information you are providing can be precise, and you're not wasting time on informing people about something they don't need to know about. Sorry, give me a second. So the better you know people you provide information to, the better you know how it all works in general on the upper levels above QA, the less time you need to gather the right information. Also, if you're involved in process updates, if you make your product less buggy, if you make your process more efficient, sorry, it basically saves you some time to get the right information to test. That's true that you cannot avoid testing. The working software is the final measure of project success. So if you have excellent documentation and wonderful process, but something is not working as expected, that's basically a fail. You still need to test, that's true. But all these suggestions are just to make your testing more efficient. Thank you. Thanks for watching. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So today I will be talking about the topic that is it is like a question or a battle between two frameworks. And I worked in different projects, and different projects had their own their own opinion on these two frameworks. So, and today I would like to discuss with you. So, what would you choose? And I would like to show you my comparison. I have like a few different points that I can compare. I would like to compare, and then we can discuss this and compare our opinions. So a few words about me. So I have been working in quality assurance in automation for 9 years. I'm a senior QA automation engineer, and so a few years ago I finished my PhD in theoretical physics and physics of water, because it is another topic that is very interesting for me. Well, so let's discuss the battle between these two frameworks. So why I added this picture here? This is Battle of Kulikova. But very interesting fact about this, that probably some scientists think that probably it was a legend, because there were no burials found and other proofs, and but there is a big legend. And maybe between our frameworks, the battle is like a legend. There is no battle between them, and maybe they can be like used in both in the same areas, or maybe they can have like different areas. So let's discuss like firstly, let's discuss this. So let's compare features. For example, here would be like TestNG, and here it will be like JUnit. JUnit. In your opinion, what are the most important features that have, for example, TestNG and JUnit doesn't have, or vice versa, in your opinion? So today we will talk mostly about JUnit 4. I will it's not out of date. The release date is Q3 of this year. So it is not like released yet. Yes. TestNG, no. Okay. Let's discuss this by the speech. Okay. Maybe you are correct, but let's discuss this during the session. So, maybe if you would like to say about JUnit 5, so what are the features, for example, that are better with your JUnit 4?
For example, parameterization is better to do some parameterization test with some additional description and other stuff.
Is the data provider like...
No, not like data provider, like additional description, like issue name or... But yeah, we can use also data provider, but another...
We have online broadcasting, and all the questions you can ask after the presentation, because our participants who are looking at us online cannot hear you. So we will appreciate about all the questions after the talk.
Maybe you can give a microphone.
Okay. So could you prompt something else? So
Grouping some group tests. I remember that there were some problems to group in JUnit.
okay. And now it is it better?
Yeah, the smooth is the same in version of 5. But
So it has tags, and tags can be for tags you can use for test method and the test. So you can group by tags.
it's the same.
But
It's another like alternative, no matter.
so as you mentioned, grouping. You mentioned like parameterization. What else? Dependencies.
Also available in 4 version.
Anything else? Okay, so dependencies. So where is better dependencies?
In TestNG because
TestNG. Okay.
the dependency is not included in JUnit.
Is it included in JUnit 5?
Yeah. They do everything to be competitive attribute.
Okay, so here is the question, yes. Parameterization. Okay, we will discuss this. So other opinions, maybe other topics to compare. No? Okay, so well, when I was thinking what to choose, I compared this like this list. So firstly, we will talk what just a few words about these frameworks, and then we will discuss these topics. Because so I chose these topics because I, as a QA engineer, like to know about them. So so JUnit 4 now they are working on JUnit 5, but so it will be released in maybe in the Q3 of this year. But so it is not such dates can be moved, and so we don't know, I think. And the old stable version is 4.12. So and as it stable version, and I think many projects like to use stable versions. So because that is why I started to compare these versions. And to include it, you just need to include your, for example, if you use Maven, you can just include this small piece of code in your POM.XML. And TestNG was developed like a few years after JUnit was invented, and the main aim of this framework was to extend functionality, to add something more, to use testing in some areas where it was maybe not possible in JUnit, or maybe it was not as flexible as in JUnit. In JUnit it was less flexible. So, and let's start from suites. So in previous, like in the JUnit 4, you can compare, like you can join your test classes in suites, like using, for example, you can use a class where you combine your classes, but you have to prepare such class. But in TestNG there are different, so one of the method is to use TestNG XML. So it is very like flexible method, because you can sometimes you can just create it at runtime, and you can if you create appropriate script, and you can just create any like not dependency, but any order of tests, any like list of tests, etc. Any exclude something, include something, etc. So what about JUnit 5? About suites? Set of test cases.
Yeah, it's mostly the same, and it's now stable from November 2016, so it's stable. It's not like alpha or beta version.
No. I'm not asking is it stable. I mean, I'm asking just combining test cases in into suites, sets, test sets.
Yes, it's also included in, but it's not like this. There is another methodology to combine, but mostly like you need.
Do you mean nested?
You mean threads, yes, or what you mean?
No, we are not talking about threads. We are like QA engineers, and we like to combine our tests in a set. For example, we have a smoke test set, we have like regression, something like this. So maybe I'm wrong, but as I know, there is no such feature even in JUnit 5.
Which parameter now on the table the same as on this and as on TestNG?
We are not.
Test name regression. You mean this differentiation? Yes.
I mean that we would like to combine our tests into a set, and somehow to execute, for example, for some purpose we would like to execute one set of tests, and for another purpose we would like to execute another one.
Yeah, there's like some test combination and like, but it's there is another syntax, but it's
Okay, let's move on. So fixtures. For JUnit and TestNG, the set of fixtures probably looks like the same. We have like setup, tear down features. They changed their names in JUnit 5, but the meaning is the same. And if we compare with like TestNG, so in TestNG, so this set is like bigger than even if we compare with JUnit 5. Test asserts. So we are like QA engineers. We would like to compare something, and only we would like to compare like expected results, actual results, and this is how we test. So the set of asserts is probably more or less the same, but maybe in TestNG so there are more like overloaded methods. And for example, if we compare with JUnit 4, there was like assert that, as I remember. I don't know. I'm not sure about JUnit 5, but this one is used for Hemcrest. As I know that Hemcrest was included in JUnit 4, but it's not included in JUnit 5 because there is no need to do this, and we will talk about this further. If we talk about asserts, the only difference in many cases is like order of these parameters. So in JUnit, firstly we have expected result, actual result, and then we have like, and on the first place we can put the error message, and we have like two fail overloaded methods. In TestNG, we don't have like assert that, but we have assert throws, for example, and we have like a few more maybe overloaded things about fail. So the order is different because firstly we have like actual result, then we have expected result and error message. So if you like moving from one framework to another one, so you can mix up these things. Soft asserts. So TestNG has like such powerful feature like soft asserts. So does anybody knows what does this mean? What it means? Yes, it's verification, but so we have asserts and soft asserts. What is the difference? Sorry? So the test fails in any case. So soft assert means like we have not one value to compare, but we have like a few values to compare. For example, we are going to API, some API, we are getting our object. And the object has, for example, 10 fields. And we would like to check not only one field, but we would like to check 10 fields at once. And sometimes, for example, we have like end-to-end tests. So we would like to go somewhere, navigate, check something, then go to another point and check this point too. And we would like to check all these points and not stop on the, for example, on the first step, but we would like to go further and check something else. So for this purpose, TestNG uses soft asserts. So you can check a few things, and then you can just assert them all, and here you will have the result. So in JUnit 4, there were no such such feature. In JUnit 5, they have like a feature that maybe looks like this, but the main difference between this, between like TestNG and JUnit, is that in JUnit 5 you have put all these asserts together in one brackets. So you can't use like one assert, then some number of step, then assert, then some number of step. You can just take all your results into one place and then you can assert. So maybe it's not as flexible as here. But could you maybe do you have any idea how to use like the same like here?
It's the same from JUnit 9.
I know that there is like so there is like soft assert word or what?
Yeah, soft assertions, library and a subset but here is
Okay.
equals and then it's asserted. So
Okay, maybe it was new because previously I was looking into the site.
library org assert G core AP soft assertions.
Okay. So, but if you would like to add in JUnit 4.
Really, I also work with TestNG.
Okay. So, but it is also possible because you can just use SRJ. So probably the syntax is maybe a little bit different, but not much. Hamcrest. In JUnit 4, Hamcrest, some classes of Hamcrest were included. And what is Hamcrest? Hamcrest makes our tests more meaningful. We can just assert something using like usual English words. And here it's maybe sometimes such notion is more meaningful than like usual asserts. But can we use Hamcrest somehow with TestNG? Without Googling. Hamcrest, it's in the name of the library. Okay, to use Hamcrest with TestNG, it is just to include this dependency, and then you can have like the same possibilities, but here the number of functions is more extended because in JUnit 4, for example, it was cut. So it has some functions, but not all of them. Here you have a bigger number of possibilities. As I said, to make your assertions more like meaningful, to add like some maybe English sentences in your asserts, in your comparisons. Timeout. We have probably it is the same, so we have like timeout added to the test, and here is number in milliseconds, and we can ignore test. In JUnit 5 this was changed to disable, so it is the same. In TestNG there are two possibilities. So you can just include it into test, but O is uppercase. I don't know why. And you can use this here. So timeout you can use for suites in TestNG XML. So maybe it's bigger possibility. Suite. So do you know what is special with this timeout? It's not only for JUnit or TestNG, it is for both. What is the special fact about this? For example, you are, have like test class. Here you are creating an instance of WebDriver, and here you are trying to use this WebDriver. What would happen here? well, so so the main thing about this is that this test would have a separate thread. So, for example, if you in this class you create like WebDriver, here this variable of WebDriver would be null. So to use this, it is an interesting weird fact about this timeout, but you should take into account this. Skip exceptions. So how to ignore test? So in TestNG there are different possibilities. So you can just make enabled false. You can throw skip exception, and you can exclude it like from the TestNG XML. So different. You have different possibilities. In JUnit, you just sorry. Huh. Oh, I'm sorry. Somehow it was the yes, it was yes. So in JUnit it is like one possibility. So in JUnit 5, as I understand, so it is the same. So in TestNG, so you have like more possible variants. Exception testing. So in JUnit, there are a few variants. You can check exception. To check exception message, you can for example, use try catch, or you can use a rule. As I know, in JUnit 5 it is more flexible than it was. But in TestNG, so you just have to add these words here, and everything would be in one place. So in one place you have like exception that you are waiting, and you can have here the message, and here you can use like regular expression. Well, so I don't know, maybe for somebody it is the same, but for me it is very like very useful. Parameterization. So parameterization was very bad for JUnit 4, and for TestNG it was like for many years it was very powerful feature that was different. So do you know like if you, for example, have like this test that is parameterized, for example, you have like five possibilities, five possible like values. So if you add here like another test, for example, login test, login to something somewhere. So are there any like special things regarding this second test added to the same class? Yes. In JUnit 4. So bad thing about this that the second test would be executed the same number of times as this test. So this is so to add something else, you can just, it would be better to use another class, not this class. This is one like possible. You have to create this like you should have like two fields, and you should have like such constructor. Without this, it wouldn't work. And another possible variant is to, if you wouldn't like to have like constructor, you can use this these annotations, but this field should be public here. And are there like possibilities to create like JUnit the same parameterized test as we can create in TestNG? Do you know? No? Okay, let's consider TestNG parameterization. So first of all, you can just take your parameter from TestNG XML. You can use parameters and data provider. For example, you have some set of values, and you can execute this test via these values. And main thing here is that another test that is added here wouldn't be executed the same number of times as we have here values. And one more interesting thing, that you can add your data provider. You can get your some maybe fields, some values from somewhere, for example from CSV file, and then you can inject them into your file. So here you have like data provider and data provider class. So this data provider would be in another class. In JUnit 4 there was like previously there was like a method to do this, to use DTO and to create this DTO for all possible possible cases. So maybe it's not like flexible to create for every case a separate DTO. But with JUnit you can inject, you can use JUnit params, for example. JUnit params is a library, and you can just write like this, or you can use like JUnit data provider. This is another library, and with this library probably the annotations can look maybe like the same like we have for TestNG. So we can use here data provider, we can store it in a separate class, and we can just parse some CSV file, etc. So this is very flexible. So just 1 second. Categories. Sometimes we should not only have like sets, test suites, but we should have like we can have like maybe tag some tests, like some tests should be like positive and others are negative, for example, or combine them, like have like category that are faster and that are slower. And previously there were categories in JUnit 4, in JUnit 5 tags, and you have in JUnit 5 you can use tag not only for test method but for testing class as well. So, and to include them you can just use for example, if you use in Maven, you can use Surefile plugin, and you can just mention your group of tests. It is we are talking about Surefile plugin, but there is like another plugin. Do you know the name? Competitor of Surefire, or maybe that has maybe the same functionality. Maven, yes, Maven. No, I'm not talking about this. I'm just asking. So for Maven, we have like plugin, Surefire plugin. it has some functionality, but there is another plugin that has the same functionality, but there is like very, very small difference between them.
You mean like TestNG reporting or?
I'm not like about TestNG reporting. Yes, this plugin can cover reporting, but it has many possible things. Have you heard about failsafe plugin? No. Okay. Okay, maybe so. Surefire plugin is responsible for unit testing. If your project has like not only unit testing, but for example, integration testing at the same project, at the same like Java project, it would be better to use like one plugin for example, unit testing and another one for integration testing. So if you have only one project where you have only tests, so you can use Surefire plugin. If you have just two projects and you would like to separate them, it would be better maybe to use both plugins. If we return to TestNG, so there are more possibilities. You can have like groups of methods, groups of classes, groups of groups, and you can just tag them in the code or in the TestNG XML. So here is the one example. So you have like you are just naming groups in the test. I mean defining groups in the test. Another possible variant is to define like here is like groups of groups. Here is like groups you have smoke, regression, fail, and here is group all, where you include all of these groups. JUnit dependencies. So in your opinion, guys, is it good to have dependencies in your test, in your testing? Okay, I agree with you. So maybe. Sorry? So you would like to have such feature for end-to-end testing? Okay. And for example, your test is dependent on another test, and the first test will fail. How would you be sure that the fail is for the first test or for the second test? Okay, so for JUnit previously there was like maybe not dependency but like ordering. So you could order tests like and you have like very small number of ordering. For TestNG there are like more possibilities, like you can make your test dependent on another test, depend on groups, and so you have like different flexible possibilities. And so who is using guys, do you use like listeners in your testing? Could you prompt what is it for?
Maybe for some dynamic elements, for some events.
Mm-hmm. And how can you use such events?
Mm-hmm. Such moment of time.
Have you heard about, for example, Allure? Yes, it's for reporting. So Allure or some other like libraries, they use listeners because they like they are listening to some events and they are processing them and they create reports. So dependently on their like if the test started or some method is started and etc etc etc. So for JUnit 4 at least, so there was like one possible listener. So you could like listen some some activities like failure, finished, start, ignored, etc. So in JUnit 5, so as I know, there is like a possibility that is more flexible. So you can like there is like set of some actions that you can listen and you can inject some code there. So in here is like example how to use this listener. So to use this listener, you just need to add this to the POM XML. And in TestNG, there are more listeners, more like flexible possibilities. For example, you can listen your test. You can listen your method. You can listen, for example, further I would give you more like possible variants. And you have like two possibilities to inject these listeners. First of them is like to add listeners tag to your testing class. And another possibility is just to add this listener to the TestNG XML. So guys, who are using like TestNG? What is like special thing regarding this method to include listeners? So, okay, so a special thing about this is that, for example, you have two classes. You have two classes, two test classes, and you executing them. And into one class, you are added listener, and to another class, you haven't added listener. And you are just thinking so that you will have like report here, and for another class, you won't have report. So, but it is fail. So because the listener would be added to all test suite. So if you added it once in one class and you executed all tests, so the listener would be added to every test class. So this is very important thing about listeners in TestNG. And here are more like examples. So you have like execution listener. For example, you can do something on the start or on the finish. Suite listener and iReporter. You can create your customized report generator. Parallelization. I wanted to ask you, but so here is the answer. So how to parallelize, for example, JUnit 4. In JUnit 4 there were no such possibility, and to parallelize it you had to just create your threads, or another possible variant is to use this Surefire plugin or failsafe plugin. Actually, I'm just investigating JUnit 5, so I can't say you more today. But so as I've heard that it is more flexible than in JUnit 4. For TestNG parallelization, you can use plugin, you can use like this notion, parallel methods, and you can use like so this notion you can use on the TestNG XML level, and you can use thread pool size attribute in the test. So a few different variants. Well, so do you have questions regarding this comparison? Fail-safe, do you mean? Yes. So the question was the analogous framework plugin to yes, for Maven, yes. So Surefire and fail-safe. Here I would like to give you like links. So links on that I used. So links on documentation, on asserts, on some example of listeners, and on the 3D party libs like SRJ, Hamcrest, JUnit params, JUnit data provider, and TestNG. So do you have any question? Yes.
I'm really sorry, maybe I missed the part, but what about comparing regarding the ordering of the running tests?
In JUnit 4 there was like ordering, for example, alphabetical. So you could like create alphabetically different names, and you can just run one by another. In TestNG you have like for example, you can order tests in the TestNG XML, for example, or even test classes. You can order by dependencies. So for example, one test can be dependent on another test. So this second test would be like executed as well.
Because on my project I'm just using JUnit only, and I had the problem with this ordering. Actually, I just solved it only by using this Surefire plugin.
So
always okay for you to use just alphabetical order.
yes, I agree with you. Yes. So another possible variant. So this plugin Surefire and failsafe was developed because to extend the functionality of this testing frameworks. So as I see, we finished. So thank you for your attention.